Welcome back to another MTGO Modern League with me, Magix, and today we are gonna run back our Yorion control deck, which splashes black into the band core. So, let's go!
Push the goddamn button!
You heard what she said.
Alright guys, let's go with the first match here. We are on the play this time around. Keeping a hand with the basic planes, Field of Ruin. I think thanks to the Arcum's Astrolabe, of course. Hoping that Fatal Push and Supreme Verdict will have some text in the future. So we immediately start with the Astrolabe. Maybe finding a fetch land here would be very good. And we do find a fetch land, so there comes the first blue source. Also can revolt Fatal Push. And we are playing against a Breeding Pool tapped, so has to be some form of probably also band control, or maybe in fact without a 1-drop. That are the only decks that are coming to my mind here. We draw Ice-Fang for the turn, which is fine. Opponent plays Flooded Strand, so very likely to be a band control mirror of some sort. And here we go, he starts with Stoneforge Mystic, so he's playing a Snowblade variant. Let's see if he grabs the sword or a better skull. Grabs the sword, which makes sense. Constant threat, but we have the Fatal Push, so let's use it here so he can't cheat in the sword as easily. Foregoing the Ice-Fang here for one turn, because we have the third land drop and fetch out the Triome to have more colors available. Finding another island, very good. The next land drop is also secured. Let's see what happens next. Also holding up Field of Ruin here to maybe get the third blue source. Or Mystic Sanctuary, and opponent decides to drop Teferi just into our open mana. Doesn't care about Mana Leak, Hardcast Force or anything, so, well. Now I'd play out the Ice-Fang in response and hope to rip a Force here. But you only find another Astrolabe, so opponent now is pretty much advantaged because he resolved the Hero of Dominaria. Bounces back our Ice-Fang, but the Teferi still sticks around. Didn't draw an Abrupt Decay here or anything, so it's very likely that he has a Force in hand too. So I decide and dump the creatures back into play to pressure the Teferi. But that is hard if he also plays Ice-Fangs, right? So yeah, this game now resolves entirely about getting rid of the Teferi. So all in all, the Stoneforge didn't even really matter. It's really always the 3-mana Teferi that is the big win con in these control mirror matches. Now let's see, I can't remember if he has a Supreme Verdict here or anything. That would be also devastating here. But we have 2 attackers, so he also needs like 2 Ice-Fangs. Or okay, 1 block the snap and then Teferi sticks at 1 around. So we play 5th land drop, at least we don't have issues hitting the land drops. So yeah, send everything at Teferi and hope for the best. 6 unknowns in hand, we know that he has a sword. Can also use Path to Exile or something. So many outs to this here. Path the Snap, we can't counter it, so Teferi sticks around at 1. Nothing we can do here. So, trying to cycle some cards, maybe find a Teferi of our own and run him out of other stuff so that Yorion maybe can take over. Like, even with a Teferi in play, if it doesn't grow, he has to have all the counters in hand to stop our bombs if we have runner, runner, runner. Like, but still, it's pretty hard here. If he hits another island, he can go with Mystic Sanctuary, loops for the counter spells, and we can never really fight back. Let's see what Uro finds here. More Hero of Dominarias. They can also get rid of Teferi if they ever hit the battlefield, but with 5 mana, it's very likely that you can only play 1 per turn. Now he drops an Ice-Fang. Makes sense that he didn't use it alongside the path, because now if he rips the 5th land drop, he can just equip the sword on the Ice-Fang and has that going for him as well. So this match right now spirals out of control. Luckily, he doesn't have the 5th land drop in hand, so he can't go ham with the sword yet. But that's really just icing on the cake. The issue is the Teferi and yeah, nothing else in the first place. Like, if he would have only a sword and some Ice-Fangs, sure, whatever. But yeah, this Teferi is just so good. Just so good. Keeps it back as a blocker. Let's hit the 5th land drop. So I think I go ahead and path it here. Hope that he doesn't have another creature. Or that he doesn't counter the path. Comes the 3rd island. Next fetchland will be Mystic Sanctuary now. And he hardcasts the Force, so at least 1 down. That is not the worst, so I try and drop the Hero of Dominaria here. Checking if he has a 2nd Force. And he does, of course, so, well, at least we got rid of an Archmage Charm as well, so this is kind of the plan that I mentioned before. Just trying to drop bomb, 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 hope to draw out all his counter spells, and that eventually one of our Planeswalkers might stick. So here, of course, he takes the hit, he will play the sword and equip the sword, so he needs another Force in hand, a 3rd Force, in order to deal with Hero of Dominaria. I think I pitch here the Supreme Verdict pretty easily. So this turn is kind of telegraphed. Let's jump ahead. He untaps, of course, so yeah, right, he has all the counter mana available now. Still 3 cards in hand. Nothing happens here, we're just a little bit tanking. And then he plays an Archmage Charm, draws 2. No, he drops the Stoneforge, and then I try the Hero of Dominaria, and then he Archmage Charms it. Killing our 2nd bomb in a row. Fetched out the Better Skull with the Stoneforge, of course. Just skipped ahead here a little bit. And we find the Abrupt Decay, so now we have the answer against an Hero of Dominaria if he does not have a Cryptic in hand to bounce the Teferi in response to the Abrupt Decay, because then he has still the Teferi in hand, and with the pressure on the board, he can just hold it back for later. Also finds a fetch land for Mystic Sanctuary now. so that he can get Archmage's Charm back to refill his hand here. Let's see what he puts on top. Puts back on top an Archmage's Charm, alright. So this is even better. Let's choose full presenter mode here. Then he drops his Better Skull that he had in hand, so Better Skull is in play, Archmage's Charm is on top, and he has one unknown card in hand. Now he attacks with the Ice-Fang and the Stoneforge. I will block the Stoneforge here, so that he doesn't get Bounce, Better Skull, put it into play shenanigans anymore. Then we discard the Cryptic here, because I have to get rid of the Teferi and go from there. And we draw another Astrolabe. And we have the Uro available to us, so I'm counting here. Could also Field of Ruin him to prevent the top deck Archmage's Charm. So I have to count what mana we have with the Field of Ruin. And if we can do everything in one turn. The Uro won't stop the Ice-Fang, but it draws us some cards against the discard effect, and it might stabilize with the life gain. So go for the Uro here first, see if we hit another land drop, because then we can still use Field of Ruin and use the Abrupt Decay here. That would be a pretty good turn. We can pitch the Astrolabe through the sword, provided that he doesn't have another counterspell in hand, of course. Okay, taps mana. For a mana leak. I think with the Astrolabe in hand and the Teferi still at 3, I will pay it here. Pay it for now, still pitch the Astrolabe. Sure, he gets Archmage's Charm, but are not dead yet. Go to 19 here. Only takes 7 per turn. And we draw a Force of Negation, which might come in handy when the Teferi is off the battlefield. So let's see what he does here. So he has Archmage's Charm in hand, Teferi goes to 4, so much so clear. Will he draw immediately? No, he first switches the sword, attacks for 6 with Vigilance, which also stops Uro. Because, yeah, it will always be back as a blocker, but we are not dead yet, and we only lose an Astrolabe here. And we still have Yorion, which draws 4 cards at least, so even though he resolved this very early time Raveler, we are still holding on to a straw back into the game thanks to Uro. Now we draw an Archmage's Charm of our own, which is interesting now. So, we can't counter his Archmage's Charm because of the Teferi. So I think first things first is to decay this damn Teferi away. We know that he doesn't have a Cryptic to prevent this, so if he uses his Archmage's Charm now to draw 2, that doesn't matter that much. And if we find a Mystic Sanctuary here, we can use the decay and get rid of the sword finally. And what we can also do is we can use Archmage's Charm to get control of the germ actually, preventing the attacks next turn. So I'm thinking what to do here. We can also attack with the Uro and just let it die and draw another card, because it doesn't have much text on the battlefield anyways. Or no, we can't do both counterspells in the combat phase, that would be also good, but yeah. Can't remember exactly what I did here. So I think, yeah, okay, I still attack because I want to draw the extra card and Uro will get back eventually. And we draw a Path to Exile, which is interesting because now we can path the Germ token, get rid of the blocker. This prompts him to counter the Path to Exile. which allows us then to counter back. Or rather, let it resolve and take control of the germ, which is even better because then he doesn't get an additional land drop. And we keep the Force in hand for later. Don't need the card draw from the Archmage's Charm necessarily, because we still have Yorion. So we are also only one land drop away from putting Yorion into play and draw 4 at least. And the Ice-Fang alone is not that threatening. So now we took control of his equipments. Sure, he can bounce back the Beta Skull, but we keep the germ at least around here on our side. So there we go, that was our turn. He is in top deck mode now. Let's see what happens. Draws a land, sure, he can put Archmage's Charm back on top, but we have a counter against that. So the question now is, can we draw enough cards to outgrind this germ token? Or this Beta Skull. And then I didn't know that you can use your equipments when I kind of control the equipped creature to re-equip your own creature, so he gets, simply puts everything on the Ice-Fang again, so we lose our force here, unfortunately, but the Archmage's Charm of him is only on top of his deck, so we can still force him to shuffle with Field of Ruin. Now I want to find a Mystic Sanctuary and or any removal that can deal with the Ice-Fang here. That would be great. Find an Astrolabe. Can cycle that first. Let's see what we find. Find another Force. Still counting here. We can still maybe draw with the Uro. Maybe into Path to Exile, Snapcaster Mage, something like that. Abundant Growth. Just a recycle. He can instantly block here. Now we can protect the Force in hand though with our Abundant Growth, but we need answers here. So put Abundant Growth into play. Yorion now draw 6 if it ever hits the battlefield. Find a Path to Exile, so alongside Force we can fade one attack phase here. So we know that he draws Archmage's Charm. Don't have to path right away, so let's do it in his turn. Giving him less resources, so also he can't really bounce his Beta Skull end of turn, I think, or I mean he could, but there is not that much reason to do it. Now if you replace the Beta Skull, it can't attack yet, so... And if you search the land, then the Archmage's Charm gets shuffled in, of course, so that's also okay. I think he didn't grab a basic, so we know that he has the Charm in hand. So no Field of Ruining here, we just untap. And we can replay Uro. That is pretty good. Replay Uro with Force back up and draw some more cards. Yorion too expensive here in this turn for 8, so only one option to go, really. That is a long-ass game. Also surprised that we are still in it, even through Stoneforge, which is supposedly good in the mirrors, also through Teferi on 3 that we couldn't answer. So should leave the Decay in the graveyard if we find a Snap or something to deal with the sword, because the germ on its own cannot beat an Uro. And here he goes for Archmage's Charm to counter. Should force here. Let it resolve, okay. Don't know why exactly. Don't know what my thinking was. Maybe thinking that with the Field of Ruins I can replay it anyways, and keeping Force up for a Jace or something here that might bury us has some value. Because if he draws a Jace or something and bounces the Uro back to hand, he's so far ahead with the Germ Sword and Jace that there is no way back in the game, whereas, okay, he plays the Better Skull here. If he doesn't have another counter spell now, we could also just force the Better Skull and get rid of it for good. And he doesn't even play it, so I think he plays around the counter spell here too. So yeah, okay, that makes sense then to leave the Force back in hand. Good thinking. If I can praise myself here. And yeah, filling the graveyard for yet another Uro. Finding more Field of Ruins helps there. And I think we have here a window to put Yorion into our hand finally. Should leave one field open though, at least. Just in case if we have to make him shuffle. If he has a third Sanctuary or something. You never know. Oh yeah, we have still this little birdie here in the command zone. Or in the companion zone, whatever. Counting, we could also go in. But I think waiting one more turn to do it with the counter backup in case he doesn't play anything seems even better. Then we draw an entire hand again, so he has to do something now. And unless he has drawn pretty good counter and the next land drop, because we can still pay a mana leak or something, then we are good to go. Well, he found the next land drop, so let's hope he doesn't get another Archmage Shram or something, or a Force. We can get him, we also have the Uro still going for us. So here comes the Better Skull, I try to force it. At least that, yeah. If he has a counter here, at least the Yorion is free to go, and we can still rip past the Exiles and stuff. Maybe DK, maybe an Assassin's Trophy, there are... Even Kaya's Guile, there's a lot of removal still in the deck, I think, so... Okay, has this third Force. Better Skull resolves, sure, but it's naked on the battlefield. We can Field of Ruin here. Improving our top deck qualities, getting rid of the other Sanctuary so we can't use Cryptic with it. There's some stupid tapping issues. Alright, well, let's see. Also like 10 minutes in on each clock, so that was a very long and grindy matchup. But the decay here in the deck was pretty good, gotta admit. So here comes Yorion, 4 mana open. Mana Leak, of course, won't have tax, so, well, we can pitch it to a sword at least. But if we find a removal here, he still can't attack, so there we go. Okay, give us a new hand. Chant the open mana to cast everything that we might draw. Trigger. And there is our 3 mana Teferi, and we draw 4 lands. Oh my goodness. Can fade at least the Germ attack. We have an Yorion on the battlefield, and we can use Mystic Sanctuaries now, but we have drawn yet another land. So now the flooding starts here on our side. We need a Jace, and well, he does rip a hero. Gets rid of Yorion, but if we draw it in a few turns, we can draw 6 again. But, well, bad turn of events here, so I guess we play Time Raveler and play Uro. Put Cryptic back on top, okay. Choose to use DK to get rid of the sword. Hoping that he doesn't rip a path in two or something. I'm not sure if that is the right call. Probably thinking that, okay, we can Cryptic or bounce the Teferi, but there's no way yet to counter it on the way back. Some lands into play. Play the hero. So we could bounce an Astrolabe. Try to dig for more answers or just uptick for now. So that we can also bounce the Germ once more. Because he bounces the Better Skull, draws 2 cards for turn. Yep. Well, at least he just also has drawn a land. And he finds a path to exile, unfortunately. So, my plan did not go off, so here he goes. Let's draw on the removal spell. It was not unlikely, he has only played one path yet. Here comes the Germ. Could equip it, sure. Finally a reason to fire off the Decay soon. Get rid of the sword for good. No more untapping shenanigans but the hero. Now our 2 Hero of Dominarias are dead. Let's check our library here with Field of Ruin. There's only one more basic, so we have a pretty high likeliness of just drawing business again. Sure, the Yorion is shuffled back into the deck, but if I can find a Jace here, I think that should outvalue the Hero of Dominaria, because the untapping ability is not an issue anymore. We also have still more Cryptics and stuff in deck, but we draw yet another land. Get rid of the Germ, or yet another land. And now I'm thinking, okay, well, fuck. If you draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the other 2, 7, 8 lands in a row, then even the Yorion doesn't matter. But on the other hand, if we didn't play the Yorion, we would have top decked 8 lands in a row. So at that point, the game would have been over also, or 2. But, well. Here comes the Better Skull again. Can't mana leak it. He has one more card in hand. And plays Stoneforge. Well, finally a target for mana leak. Let's use that. Why not? Get rid of it. Now give me a Jace please deck, because opponent is in top deck mode. I have to find an answer for the Germ. I have to find an answer for the hero. 5 lands in hand. And we find the Yorion again. Hey! Let's draw 6 again. Isn't that fun? Well, still, drawing all these lands made the game pretty close again, where I thought that with the Yorion we would have instantly won. I don't know if there was a shuffle bug, because I used a Field of Ruin after the Yorion was put back into the deck with the hero. So, who knows? Put at least Decay on top, so that we know that we have a removal against the Germ that he can't counter. So that his Better Skull doesn't do anything again. Of course, do it in his upkeep, so if he wants to bounce it, he can't do it off end of our turn, and here has to use his 3 mana on his turn. And again, draw more cards and discard all these damn lands. Keep the value coming here, so you can see in this match at least, Yorion was the winner. Or is probably the winner, because now the business comes without any land drops, or nearly no land drops in the deck left. And now we can pitch safely 3 land drops here, get rid of all the Flooded Strands. All fodder for a future Yorion, get rid of the Germ here for good. If he drops it to Teferi, we still have Snap Decay in our turn or something. Could have also used Path to Exile, but they are still useful against his Uros, because he will also have Uros, like here. So instead of allowing it to go to the graveyard and be used over and over again, I just path it right away, because he has all his basics out of the deck, most likely anyways. Should be around 1 Plains or something left. Sure, the Uro will cycle. We are still ahead, 4 cards at least. He probably also has more land drops in the deck. And he is soon out of cards. I mean, 19 still has to win somehow. Sure, comes another Stoneforge. Let's see if he has a third sword or a third equipment in the deck. Nope. Just a good old Squire. Now we have the Yorion on the battlefield, so we can also just attack the hero. And if he has a path still, let's put in some Snapcaster Mages and the 2 Ice-Fangs to pressure the Teferi out of the game through a path or something. I mean, we have Hero of Dominaria on the battlefield, Time Raveler on the battlefield, so he can't do anything here, so... Well, we also have to kill him at some point, and we are only 9 minutes 50 seconds on the clock, so I have to end this game quickly and not waste more time for a possible game 3, you never know. So I think I actually go ahead here and attack him and use Assassin's Trophy on the hero to end it quicker. I know if we had more time, just attack the Teferi for 4 and send 3 to him, but I want the damage as AP. Having Cryptic and Sanctuary going now for us, and still Ice-Fang to draw back into the Cryptic, so we can prevent a Jace and finally get rid of the Better Skull. Or just let the Better Skull resolve, because we have the Teferi on 5 and can just send it back from where it came. Finds yet another Uro, so he gains 3 again. Now into stalling mode. But he also burns up some more time on his clock, so, well, you have to play quick here. I think I should not put in the other Ice-Fang yet to play around Supreme Verdict, you never know. Find an Uro of ourselves, which we can also escape. So let's put the Uro into play. Attack him again for 7. Put him to 17. Escape the Uro, which costs some seconds here. By Mana Leak, and lands. And we draw a Jace. Sure, let's drop that too. Fate Seal him and check for good top decks. Can also bounce a Germ then. The Jace only draws a land, so he can keep that and pass the turn quickly. 8 minutes 30 seconds on the clock. Here comes the Better Skull. Should auto yield to this damn trigger. I think that is like the 10th time he bounces this damn Better Skull. There you can see, kind of, that Stoneforge Mystic is not that big of a deal. It was really mostly the Teferi in this game. So here we go, more Ice-Fangs, means more damage. Bounce the Germ back. Attack for 8 plus 6, 14, so in 2 turns we have him. Don't have to do anything else with Cryptic in hand. Eight minutes on the clock, dangerously. But he's not so far away, so it's not that we are pressured by the clock necessarily yet. And yeah, attack again. He can't react because of Time Raveler. Make it quicker, just attack. Don't put the Uro trigger on the stack again or something. Just F6 out of the game. 7 minutes, 53 seconds on the clock. Let's see, for sideboarding we bring in Veil of Summer, Mystical Dispute, obviously. Maybe one Ashiok, maybe one Soul Guide Lantern. There are no mentors in the deck because it's very unlikely to find the one-offs in our 80 card decks, so I think I just cut a few Path to Exiles because you rarely want to path in Stoneforge Mystic. And yes, it's good against the Germ token, but we have still Decay and Trophy, so I think I should cut the Kaya's Guile too. It's too clunky. Yeah. Now you could decide to bring in one piece of Graveyard Hate against Mystic Sanctuary and Uro. That's also the reason why I bought out one Uro. But then again, he plays Stoneforge Mystic, so Ashiok seems a little bit stronger because it prevents him from searching. So I put out one Mana Leak because we have Mystical Dispute and Dovin's Veto to substitute that, and you don't want too much Mana Leak effects for these turn 18 rounds. So one is fine to prevent the turn 3 Teferi, I think, but too much Mana Leaks will be awkward. And yeah, then just go with it again. Let's skip ahead because waiting sucks. And well, have to mulligan this. 2 Field of Ruins, no mana fixing. And the 17's fine. We have a Decay already in hand. We have a push against an early Stoneforge Mystic and a cantrip with the Ice-Fang. I think the Uro can safely go away for now. We'll find it later. And it's mostly about surviving the early game with enough land drops. The only thing that sucks is it's not a single counter spell, so while we can answer a Time Raveler, he still can get value out of it, and if we decay it on our turn and don't have a follow-up counter from maybe a Jace, that could go wrong, but yeah, still a little bit time to get going. I think here we can fetch out the Tri-land, yep, getting the black mana that we need. I think we can play the island here, representing everything but Dovin's Veto, and find a Cryptic at least. Trying to catch up on the clock a little bit. We are still 5 seconds ahead, behind or something. And here comes an Uro, which is fine. Just play out the Ice-Fang end of turn. Did not find the land drop, so let's do it now. Press F6 and save a few seconds. And now we are ahead on clock again, so we also have that access covered. Chip in for one. Probably won't matter, but it's free. Let's go. Okay, so 3 mana up. Representing everything now. And he doesn't jam at the Teferi Time Raveler this game. No need to fetch because now we have 3 islands and can go with a Mystic Sanctuary on maybe a Decay or something. So let's keep the fetch uncracked for now. Here he goes with Field of Ruin, I think. Could bounce now our own land, but that feels a risk. Yeah, not that risky because we have the Decay, so I think I should have used the Cryptic here and bounced my own land. But since I am pressured by also looking at the clock, I think I made not the optimal plays here. Could have also had a Force, but well, that is still good for us, so okay, just more Uros. Hopefully we find a piece of Graveyard Hate. That's also why my maybe Cling to Dust would be pretty good. Maybe in the last flex slot where I squeezed in the cantrip, the Omen of the Seas. Could make use of Cling to Dust there. Play out Abundant Growth. Now we have a Teferi of our own. And a Whale of Summer. So let's try and jam it. Can Force and Mystical Dispute here, but we still draw a card with Whale of Summer. So it's not the worst exchange. If he drops a Teferi of his own, we still have Decay. But he has nothing, so let's bounce Ice-Fang back. And we draw the Ashiok to get rid of his bin. If he does not escape an Uro now, he found the fetch land to do it. He could bring an Uro into play. But chooses Hero of Dominaria, so he even had that going for him. Now we do not have an answer for that, but he just tucks the Time Raveler. Alright. Let me drop the Ashiok here to prevent his escaping next turn. Not milling ourselves, because we know that we draw a Time Raveler pretty soon, thanks to the cantrip effect. Milled over nothing important on his side. Now he draws an additional card here. Back at 7. Ctrl 9. Plays out Ice-Fang. Sure. Now if he has green mana up, it's awkward to push or decay, because he can have Whale of Summer to protect his permanents, so there's always something to keep in mind. Well, we just try to drop Ice-Fang. Having some tapping issues here, hurting our clock. That is so important, because even if he wins this, it will become a game 3, so having a minute or something ahead on the clock is so important now. That tapping wrong costs the time. Having to retap is really important. Okay, here's the hero again, the Time Raveler again, our hero. Let's try and drop it. Forcing the counter war here. Or, well, we only have one counter. He goes with a path, which is fine. If the Time Raveler hits, we can push the Ice-Fang safely. Goes for Cryptic. We go for a Whale of Summer. Do you have a Force? Nope, you don't. So, Time Raveler resolves. And he has 4 minutes 50 on the clock now. Let's see, I put the Whale of Summer back. Can't know why exactly. Because I just want some action in hand and don't think that much right now. Getting rid of his graveyard. He could still fetch Mystic Sanctuary out here and put the Cryptic back on top. I think that was the reason. He could still fetch Mystic Sanctuary, put Cryptic back on top, and try to bounce our Teferi. But with Whale of Summer, we can protect it from the bounce effect, so I think that was the reason. And yeah, then he concedes, because he sees his clock, and even if he wins this in like 6 turns or something, that is probably too slow. And then I needed a breather here, because that was a crazy grind game. And, well, that was a little spoiler. Let's see, the next match is against a Tron opponent. Didn't know that here, but it's a pretty solid hand. Mana fixing, an Uro, and some early game interaction. He starts with Tron Piece Map. Great. Well, no counterspell in hand, so hoping that's not a big Tron, but there was no companion shown, so it could also still be Eldrazi Tron. Or Decay is also not the worst, because it can always get rid of Chalice of the Void, which hits the battlefield here. So our hand now consists of Assassin's Trophy and 1 Force of Negation, and that's it. At least for a longer time, but did not crack Tron, or the map this turn for Tron. So, well, here comes an Eldrazi, which is only a meta reshaper, so okay. Not the worst, not the worst. Fetching out the Triome again. And finding Ice-Fang, which has no Death Touch yet. But that's fine, I wouldn't tap out here anyways. Keep up the force for a Karn. It's more important. We could disrupt Tron with the Assassin's Trophy, but right now we don't need it. And let's put the Ice-Fang into play and cycle at least. Holding up Assassin's Trophy and Double Path. Maybe if he drops like an Reality Smasher here. Let's see, here comes the Tron mana. No. Instead he puts a counter on the Blast Zone, which is interesting. It's not like he minds trading here, so why put it on 2 there? I don't know. Don't know the reason exactly. I bet there has to be a reason. I mean, if he doesn't have a bomb in hand, Tron mana won't do that much right now. So he could also make the argument that keeping the map there for Scavenger Grounds against Uro has some value. So since he has all the mana in the world anyways now, I go ahead and trophy the Chalice here. You make use of our mana. Then start dropping the Uro. Give him something to think about so that he does not complete Tron. Gets rid of our graveyard, sure, but well. Yeah, at worst he places some Socknot Seers here and gets rid of Jace and maybe a Path or something. But then the Uru will hit the battlefield, so I think he has to get Scavenger Grounds now. Or put the Blast Zone up to 3. But goes for the tower anyway, so I was thinking, okay, do we have an Emrakul in hand or something? Does he just want to double spell? I don't know. 8 mana? 9 mana? 10 mana? 11? 12? What is this? I was thinking, shit, is this an Emrakul? The Mindslaver one? But no, it's just a Walking Ballista for 6, so I don't really care. Sure, take 6 damage to the face, but for 12 mana, that is unimpressive. And, I mean, if he has the Mindslaver Emrakul, there's no way in preventing that during the longer game anyways. Or there was not really a way to deal with it here. Could have held open Cryptic maybe and just don't do anything, but since he has Caverns, it's so hard doing nothing all the time, so I feel like I needed something to get ahead here. Since he did not go for the Scavenger Grounds, we can now put the Uro into play, tapping out one more time. But the 6/6 on the battlefield at least stops all other Eldrazi's, so he has to hit like a Planeswalker now, or just plays All Is Dust or something, which is fine. Did not find a land drop, unfortunately. Alright, one of the 2 cards is in Eugen, so force it with the second Uro. Next card, maybe a Karn? Nope. Just nothing. Karn into bridge would be an okay, but we have 4 Cryptic to bounce the bridge, so the Karn would die. Could go for Sundering Titan, but we also can answer that and have the Uru going, so unless he has the Mindslaver Emrakul in the deck, feels like we can never lose here. So I even go ahead and tap out for the Jace, or tapping down on the counter mana. Then we find the blue source, so now we have Archmage, Charm and Force up. Or Force and Path. Puts this to 3, which, yeah, sure, kill Uru. The Jace is still there. Would have used the Blast Zone to get rid of the Jace. Place a map. Don't counter it here because he has all the mana. Might go for another Blast Zone, but okay. Looking at our hand, we can still cycle Archmage Charms for a few turns and refill. We have also Yorion still, so it's just trading water. Where we have the longest stream. Brainstorm, put maybe 2 lands. Or spell land so that Uru can ramp. Drawing yet another Archmage Charm. Okay, he decides to crack the Blast Zone here. Also fine, we can still crack the fetch land if we don't want the land drop next turn. Yeah, and then ship back the turn with this hand. Could also disrupt Tron, so to prevent the Mindslaver Emrakul if he rips that from the top, you never know. I think that still stops it, right? Then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. If he cracks the Blast Zone, he has only 9. There is Creature Land Artifact in the bin of his graveyard, so that is only -3. I think it costs 13, so if he cracks the Blast Zone, he won't have it. Then again, could also gamble and just go for the Blast Zone here. That would have been probably safer. But I was thinking, okay, if he just cracks the Blast Zone, so what, we have still the Yorion and double Archmage Charm going here. We will find another Planeswalker or something eventually. We also still have the Uru in the graveyard, so yeah, well, counter draw. At this point he has so many dead top decks that don't do anything, that only really this one single Emrakul, the Promised End, would have a chance to get us, but it's very, very unlikely to draw this one off maybe in 41 cards, and we can still counter the next map if he has maybe a Sanctum of Ugin or something. So now there is a pause, I don't know why. Still a pause, still a pause. Here we go. Counter draw. Get him. Sure, Jace dies, but now we have the hero. So we just exchange Planeswalkers. Jace left the team, Teferi joins the team, also have the Uro going. Doing it now in case he finds the Scavenger Grounds. Also makes Reality Smashers worth. And puts us to 18 against huge ass Walking Ballistas. And here, finds more land drops just for more resources, so can still go for the hero here, holding up Archmage, Charm and Force. Yeah, I think the likelihood of losing this is very low. And I'm just glad that we didn't play against Victron. That could have gone worse with this early hand that had no real counterspell in hand. Alright. And he concedes. Makes sense. Sideboarding Disdainful Strokes and maybe Kaya's Guile to get rid of Reality Smasher more effectively. Can also sack Walking Ballista, gain 4. That's sometimes relevant. And not that much of a fan of Supreme Verdict because good Eldrazi Tron players rarely play into it, or if you have it, they will just pick it. And 1 Force, 2 are usually enough. Okay. Few cantrips. Ice-Fang is good, but it lacks the Death Touch ability right now. But still, with a Field of Ruin, that has some value. Could have been good, but then we draw another land, so I have to cycle now for some early game interaction. Find more Ice-Fangs. Oh. Well, and he misses the second land drop. That was good for us. I was thinking that he has Natural Tron here or something, and just uses the map for Cavern, but no. Misses the land drop. Now he finds a tower, so he has Tron completed at least on turn 4. So while it might have been a little bump in his curve with Tron completed, he could still dump, but this gave us this one turn to play the Field of Ruin and disrupt him. And with the fetch land in hand now, Ice-Fangs will have Death Touch, which makes them pretty good in this matchup. So here it goes. Completes Tron. So I use the Field of Ruin here, which is still risky. Or, yeah. What means risky? If he drops now an Eldrazi Temple. He could play Thought-Knots here, yes, but we still have Path to Exile up. That's the reason I fetched out the Plains here. It's annoying, but not the end of the world, I think. Here comes another map, so he will have Tron next turn again. So yeah, Field of Ruin bought us a turn. Now he uses Walking Ballista for 1. I was thinking, okay, let's see what happens. And he immediately cracks it, and then I use the window to path our own Ice-Fang, so that we can drop Hero of Dominaria next turn and hold up Ice-Fang and path. So I think he cracked this prematurely. He can just wait what we are doing and do it whenever, because the Ice-Fang will never survive it. Now I'm thinking what land to play. We could also use Field of Ruin and prevent his Tron one more turn, but just slam the hero and see what he has. If he drops an Ujin now, that would hurt us, but then we find luckily a counterspell. So we can prevent the big fat dragon. We can prevent most of the attacking creatures. Reality Smasher will get stopped by Ice-Fang, and Teferi tanks 4 damage. He plays just a Meta Reshaper, which is fine. So yeah, whatever. Play out Ice-Fang is that it has Death Touch now. Now we are flooding out a little bit. It's not a good mix of action and drawing lands. Drawing yet another land. This is kind of reminiscent of the last match where we have drawn 6 lands with the Yorion. So, well, ratio-wise, we have still the same amount as if we would play 24 and 60 card decks. Which is, in my opinion, fine. Because we only have these 4 4-drops with Jace and Yorion Escape and Hero of Dominaria for later, but Jund also runs 24 and they also play pretty similar curve and don't run as much cantrips as we do, so I think that's fine on average, but so far not a lot of luck on not flooding out in some of these games. Here he drops a Chalice, we have to mana leak it or else the path is dead. So bye-bye mana leak. Then a block here. because the Teferi kind of still checks a Karn. Draws a Blast Zone, but that needs more time to get to 5. And then he drops the power plant, so he will have Tron again next turn. Yeah, if he has one of the big fat Eldrazi's, he can maybe still get us here, like with the Mindslaver. Sure, we can make him sack the Emrakul, so he only will get the fun one time, but he can still tuck the Teferi and do maybe some other nonsense. But yeah, now I'd use the window to put the Yorion into hand, which is at least a draw 1. And a 4-5, nothing special. It's also a 5-drop, so if he pumps up the Blast Zone, I have to wait. But he cracks the map instead and completes Tron. Then we can pitch a land here, no big deal. Have enough of those. So, do you have the Promised End? No, first it's a Meta Reshaper. The least scary Eldrazi here. Could also drop an Thoughtnuts here and get rid of the Yorion this way. Can't counter it because of Cavern. That's also the reason why we can't counter the Mindslaver Emrakul. We have to use something like Chaos Guile to get rid of it. I'm getting rid of the Reshaper here. He has 2 wastes out. These lists run 2 wastes most of the time, so after Exile is free here. And now he has 1 more turn to deal with this Teferi, or else he is a lost cause. Put Time Raveler into play, plus it, maybe he drops a Chalice or something, so we can bounce that back, maybe an Ensnaring Bridge or something. We are not going to play the Yorion because he can put up the Blast Zone to 5 maybe. But instead he only puts 2 counter on there to kill the Time Raveler, which is totally fine by me. Because he has to get rid of the hero here, actually. Time Raveler just doesn't do anything. Just bouncing maybe something like a bridge or what have you. So here we counter the Karn. Maybe a second Karn into a Pithing Needle. That would stop the hero here. And then he has just nothing, so we go for the Emblem. And then we can draw with the Yorion and bounce with the Teferi, because then create some good removal, but yeah. Kills the Teferi, sure. But yeah, if we get the Emblem, he can just concede, in my opinion. There's no way coming back. We are still at 17. Get a free Exile every turn, at least. Then we have drawn Archmage Charm, so we can even draw. Should Archmage Charm first, maybe find an Astrolabe before I play out the Yorion. That is a mistake, but at this point we can make every mistake in the world and I think we wouldn't lose. So if we Archmage Charm first, we can hit maybe Astrolabe, maybe more Abundant Growth, and then the Yorion effect would have been better. And he cracks his Scavenger Grounds and respawns to the Sanctuary. Yeah, then let's draw a card. Yeah, this is what I meant. There is another Abundant Growth, so we could have cycled them together maybe. But again, you can make every mistake in the world, and I think you still can't lose this at this board position. Yeah, then we draw 2. And you can concede here, in my opinion. Like, we draw for turn, we play Abundant Growth, so we have an Exile 4 here, and he just doesn't have any mana anymore. So, there we go, 4-0 start. let's go for the next match. Jump a little bit ahead, not too far to spoil. Here we go, and we play against Sven Sweeter Sven, who is usually playing a blue-red deck. I know that because I have looked up one of his lists for inspiration for my own blue-red video that I made back last week or something. But I think Band on average is very much favored against blue-red, simply because Uro kind of invalidates their Snap Bolt plans, and you still have Teferi and all the shenanigans going around. We don't really care about Blood Moon, thanks to Astrolabe and Abundant Growth, and since we are also running Decay and Push against maybe Thing in the Eyes, there's really not a lot about their decks threatening us, in this version at least. I also took a mulligan, so virtually we are at 8 cards right now, thanks to Yorion. And this is yet another matchup that will probably go very long, so where Yorion has text, he drops a thing here, which is fine. We have the removal already, we might find more removal. It's unlikely that it flips next turn, and even if it does, it's not yet over, so I think we just cycle Astrolabe here. There is no Time Raveler to be feared of. Patch out some basics in case Blood Moon hits. And find a snow-covered swamp, so besides the plains we have all the basics now. Play Serum Visions, puts a counter off the thing. At worst now he has a Remand or a Mana Leak, so we don't have to play out the Uro yet, just chip the turn back and see what he's doing. Nothing, alright, no opts, no bolts, no snaps. Just put the 4th land into play and say go, so yeah, we do the same. Rinse and repeat, building up our mana here. Holding up Archmage's Charm and Path, thanks to Astrolabe and Abundant Growth. He goes with the Bolt, sure. So we go to 15. No snap here to follow that up. And he fetches here in his upkeep. So I use this opportunity to path the Thing in the Eyes, because he has 1 mana less available. Goes for a Force, so we counter that here with the Archmage's Charm, creating a 3rd blue mana with the Astrolabe. And now, yes, we give him a land, but we have the next land drop anyways, and he is at 3 cards now. Not a lot. We are at 5. Patches out his Demons. Yeah, and now we kind of have a window for the Uro. Putting Field of Ruin into play, we can put Abundant Growth onto something, and if I remember his list correctly, he is not running a Ral or Jace or any Planeswalker of that sort. Put it on a Field of Ruin, because there's probably not much reason to crack it. This way our colorless land makes suddenly 5 colors, so not the worst, and yeah, no Jace, no Ral, no Planeswalkers here. Narset would have gotten us good here maybe, but well, nothing of the like, and yeah, ship the turn back. We are back at 18 thanks to Uro, so his Bolt Us Out plan seems kind of weak. We use Snap and try to draw 2. He has a Spell Snare here. I let it happen. Could have gone into the counter war, try to run him out, but instead we can also just try and draw 2. It's likely that he goes on remand on his own spell snare and just spell snares again, so why risk it there? Put lands into play, building up the mana for the big bird. Coming down and finishing that. It's a 4-5, so they also have a hard time dealing with that. We have Assassin's Trophy in case there is a Ral actually or something. And just drops lands. So I think I should now try exactly and bounce draw on the Astrolabe to refill our hand. Outvalue him. 3 mana leaks here, okay. Nothing of the like, so we are back at 7. Find our next land drop. Then we start with the Urus, leaving 4 mana up for Cryptic. Demands here, so well, we get it back to hand, so 3 more life against Lightning Bolts. And ship the turn back. We have now Decay in hand against another thing in the ice. Also against a click or something maybe. And here, now he tries to draw 2, has only 1 mana open, so I think we can Cryptic here. We have 3 islands on the battlefield, so I can Sanctuary back the Archmage Charm on top. Counter draw, stay at 7, keeping him at 3 to 4 cards. Have Yorion as a backup plan, 2 Urus in hand, all the removal against his threats. So yeah, even if he drops a Planeswalker here, we have Assassin's Trophy. Seems like we cover all the angles. Puts us this Charm back on top, ships the turn back, so no immediate Serum Visions into it. And we're also finding more of these 1-drops to make Yorion even better. Trying to find the next land drop, and then we find the Teferi though, so also a huge issue for him. Let's try the Time Raveler. So he goes for a snap on remand. Or on a hard counter actually. But this forces him to tap low again. So instead of leaving 2 mana open, he taps down to 1, so he can't deal with the Archmage Charm that he knows about. So I was thinking, okay, is this a bait? Do you have maybe Magnetic Sinkhole in hand or something? But whatever the case, it still costs you a card, so yeah, I'm fine with just upticking. We path the snap, so preventing a bolt here or something. If he draws 2, he is down to 3 mana, so yeah. We still have the Uro going then for us, because we have 5 cards in the graveyard again and can cycle and escape in 1 single turn. And if he remands, okay, we get it back in hand and do it later anyways. So honestly, it feels unlosable at this stage in the game. But yeah, that is also a reason why you have to invest your kind of 800 tickets in this format and can't play the cheaper 2-color versions without Teferi or Uro. And then there comes a Petty Theft on the Teferi. Well, that is fine. Can't prevent it. Play the path anyways. Let's see if he wants to counter it. No. Alright. Then the Teferi is back in our hand. We just try to drop it again. He has the Archmage Charm, of course, in hand now, but so be it. Now we find the Sanctuary, so we can put back one of our counters and draw into it immediately with the Astrolabe. Putting the 4th 1 mana cantrip onto the battlefield for the bird, if it ever comes to that point, but right now it doesn't feel like it. If he just puts the fairy into play in response to the Teferi, we still have a decay to deal with it. Yeah, draw into the counterspell, please. If he counters that, we can still draw into it with the Uro. Well, and then we drop the Teferi again. 2 cards in hand. One is the Charm, but puts the fairy into play. Sure. Okay. Bounce the... oh no, just uptick, okay. Playing around Lightning Bolt and ship the turn back. Yeah, and then we decay away the fairy. Can't do anything here because of the Time Raveler. Still have Archmage Charm up. He has 3 cards in hand. We have virtually virtually all the cards now with the bird that he can't counter anymore. Yep, and therefore he concedes. Alright, well, again, Whale of Summer, Mystical Dispute. The sideboard guide is kind of the same against Band. Graveyard Hate against Mystic Sanctuary. Then we cut a little bit down on the spot removal. And there, cut down 1 Uro, because I expect them to have relics after sideboard. At least that is what I would do with blue-red. And maybe you can cut again a mana leak or something, like the last time. I think the Kaya's Guile in this matchup is a little bit better, because the 1 toughness or 1 powered spirit can actually trade with snaps and these fairies. And you can still gain 4 if they try to tempo you out. And here I decided to cut yet another path to exile, because I expect them also to bring out the Thing in the Eyes. So, well, I think I should have just bought it out 1 mana leak instead. This end has only 1 land, so it's a mulligan. This one is better. I think we can ship back 1 of the additional Ice-Fangs. Yeah. Keep the land drops in hand. That's 2 cyclers. Then he immediately starts with cracking the fetch land for a Serum Visions. And we draw the Time Raveler. Pretty good. So here he doesn't drop Thing in the Ice, so you can just build our mana. Don't really care about the Blood Moon or anything here. No play in this turn, so we try and drop the Ice-Fang. See if he wants to counter that. Nope. And find the Lantern. And the Decay, so most of the axis covered. So here was I was to decide if I want to drop the Lantern yet, but I wanted to hold up Force Hardcast, I think. Then he plays a Brazen Borer, which is also awkward against Ice-Fang, but since I attacked for 1, he can attack back for 3. But since we have the Ice-Fang on the battlefield, I did not play Abrupt Decay here. Or, well... No, I shouldn't. Yeah, exactly, because I have the Ice-Fang. He has to answer the Ice-Fang first. So now with the additional mana, I can drop Soul Guide Lantern to prevent Archmage's Charm's loops. Then he plays another Brazen Borer. Now he has 6 power on the battlefield. So now I decided to trade the cards here. To use DK on the other one. But wait till end of turn before he does something that we might want to counter with the Force. Maybe they have Ral or something after sideboard. Maybe trying to get that. Then I draw the Lantern to find some more action here. But just more land drops again. Really not a good league for the lands. Well, no play here again. There is nothing in the graveyard I really want right now with Mystic Sanctuary. Then we find a Jace. Still building our mana here, since nothing is really happening. He plays a Snapcaster Mage for no value. I'll go to 11 now. And we can always put the DK back on top to find virtually more removal against these creature plays, so don't feel that threatened yet, unless he can chain together some lightning bolts, where we didn't find an Uru yet. But I did not put it back on top here, and then we find the Uru, so... yeah, the DK back on top, I think, to check his creatures. Then try to cycle into it with the Uru. And he goes for remand, so we have to hold out here. Can still go to 8, then draw the DK naturally. Yeah, nothing really happens here. So we draw the Decay. Try the Uro again, I guess. Liking a little bit the green mana. We have still the Misty open to get a forest or something. Now the Uro hits, so we go back to 11. And we find a Cryptic, so he's also stopping drawing lands. And we are still at 11 here, so feels good actually. Finds his next land drop. And then I think I go for the Decay on the snap here, stopping at 10 life. Well, and then there comes a surprise young Pyromancer, which I have not seen in these lists before. So now we are in an awkward position because he has so much mana open that he can make a lot of tokens here. I was jamming Teferi into him, which is actually bad because now he can just create tokens and make the Teferi bad. I should have just gone for Mystic Sanctuary on the Abrupt Decay, force him to have more cantrips instead of playing into stuff. But since he is now tapped lower, I attempted the Uro again to get life and put a 6/6 into play. But I think he has here his third remand actually, which was very likely. I mean, he stopped drawing lands at one turn, so he must have had a lot of counter spells in hand. So I think I should have just gone for Sanctuary here, put DK back onto top and hold on for one turn. Hope that he doesn't chain together multiple opts and Serum Visions and stuff like that. So now he just draws remand into remand and puts more pressure onto the battlefield where we are at 10. So sure, now I can still put the DK on top, but I can't play it this turn anymore. And he can put more tokens into play. I don't have Supreme Verdicts in my deck because I did not expect young Pyromancers. And again, another fetch land, so remand into remand. And we are at 6, so yeah. Start with Uro to go at least to 9. Then he fetches and respawns, so, well. Because he wants to remand into remand again, so yeah, let's use this window to use the decay on the Pyromancer before he can do that. Can still remand for one more token, but then he goes with Spell Snare on the decay, remands his own Spell Snare, sacrifices the Spell Snare this way, but he gets so much tokens that yeah, there's no real coming back from this position, unfortunately, which yeah, was a good play from him, definitely. And then he finds also, or has the opt still. So I think with that, even if I put the DK last turn back on top, there was no way that something resolves that can draw me into it. And since he has the opt in hand, he could have still go for opt, remand his own opt again to put all these tokens into play, forcing us to have the Supreme Verdict. And yeah, now, sure, we go back to 9, but he has lethal in 2 turns. There's no Supreme Verdict to draw to. So I try to Cryptic him, but We know that he has a remand back on top, so there's no coming through here with him having all these counter spells where we have no Supreme Verdict. I can't force the Flusterstorm because of the copy, so yeah. Whatever. We lose here, so I go to sideboarding. There's also some more countering going on here. So back to boarding, I put back in the Supreme Verdicts, put out the Assassin's Trophy because it's Arcward, and just go from there. Should still cut a Mana Leak for a path, probably. But well, now we are on the play at least. So we start here with Weight of Summer, Mystical Dispute, Ice-Fang, and the Force of Negation in hand. This is a pretty darn good hand. Just need something to force through with the Weight of Summer, but we will surely win any counter war with that in the early game. Unless he has Flusterstorm with something else. And of course he has to Flusterstorm the Veil of Summer. Yeah, so the typical early game phase where everyone puts a few lands into play and tries to play some flash threats out. So again we drop the snack. Draw a card. And he has a Stomp here, which trades even with the Ice-Fang. Him tapping out there means that he likely has a Force of Negation in hand, in case we drop a Teferi here, so well, just ship the turn back. If he plays the Bone Crusher Giant now, we can still hardcast Mystical Dispute it, or hardcast quote unquote, just pay 3 and Mana Leak it. But he is missing land drops now apparently, so well, let's try and fight something to use that. Goes with a Spell Snare here. So I think I used that to cycle Veil of Summer. Drawing some cards. Put the 1/1 into play in case he has these fairies again. Oh, and then we find an Uro. We have a window here. Because we can still hold up Mystical Dispute, I think it's safe to put the Uro into the bin. Can't force it or anything. And here. Now we are playing 5 mana against 3 mana. He doesn't have anything here. He does not tap low for the Bone Crusher Giant. And with the second Ice-Fang, I feel safe to attack. If he has a fairy, we still have a second Ice-Fang. And he starts to use the Archmage charms to find more land drops. I use Mystical Dispute here. Probably should have used Mana Leak, because it's more mana efficient that way, and we can still use Mystical Dispute later with Snap as Veil of Summer. Oh, now we put a second Ice-Fang into play to increase the pressure. And find the Jace too. So we don't have to do a lot here, just attack him, force him to tap low, maybe tap down for the Bone Crusher Giant and put the Jace into play. Let's see what he's doing. He found the 4th land drop, so goes down to 8 and plays a fairy out. And I use this window to actually kill his cycle land, because I don't care about the 3-1 right now. And then he taps it for a mana, going down to 7. And yeah, sure. Have your 3-1. Of course, that reduces our clock, but yeah, we are ahead on mana. We still have pretty good cards in hand and still have Yorion. If he goes for Bone Crusher now, we still have Mana Leak and Force. Or just Mana Leak and Snap Veil of Summer. So also have Mystic Sanctuary with the Flooded Strand if we want to. But he decides to do nothing. So, well. And of course, if he taps low, we can also put Uro into play, so we are pressuring him from so many angles. Don't know if he ever can come back from here. Even with a Pyromancer or something. So, put him down to 6. Needs like a Relic into another Stomp, and then still something. Now I use the Mana Leak here, preventing him from drawing more cards. Sure, he can put it back on top if he wants to. Doesn't do that here. He's hitting his land drops, so what will he find? The Royal Science. Yeah, I don't want him to find more gas, so I think I hardcast Force here. Because he can loot away additional land drops that are not needed and find more gas this way, or use it to directly draw into cards he puts on top with Mystic Sanctuary, so that's annoying, but let's see. Seems like he has a response. Yep, here comes the Sanctuary. That's what I meant. Wants to draw directly into that. He has 2 cards in hand here. And he hardcasts a Force, so Snap, Weight of Summer, and have 3 power in play again. Have still an Uro, have a Jace in hand. He has 1 card in hand, so he can't force back. And this Bone Crusher Giant won't rescue him. Could go for a Mystic Sanctuary here, but there is no reason to put Mystical Dispute or anything back on top. And we will use the Well of Summer here because I want to draw more cards, so yeah, whatever. Well, and now there is a long tank. And this is also kind of the reason why the video is too long. You can see that he has all of a sudden lost connection and doesn't come back during 8 minutes. So he just wastes away our time here because of frustration or whatever, but that is a pretty dick move, and just leave the goddamn game and don't waste other people's time, even if you're frustrated. So, well, wasted away some time here, and yeah, I went away and did something else because I knew what was happening, so whatever, let's go to the 4th match. Damn salty opponents, here we go. Next game, we have, well, at least a hand with a few cantrips in the path, hoping that they have text. Playing against a Breeding Pool, so okay, not a band control this time, but a Titan deck, which ramps ahead here. find an Assassin's Trophy, which is not doing a lot right now, so we don't have a single counter spell to prevent a Titan here. So yeah, try to dig into a counter spell, find yet another removal spell. That won't do much here, especially since the 0-3 is hanging around there on his tree, looking at us, laughing at our sacrifice. The creature text. He pauses there, so probably counting Amulet mana already with an bounce land. Like play Amulet, play bounce land, float the mana, play Dryad or Azusa. Play the bounce land several times, use it with the castle to drop a turn 2 Titan. That's maybe a line here, but seems like he doesn't have a bounce land, though with the castle, next turn a bounce land would mean that he can drop a Titan already. And there's a Tribe Elder anyways, so even without a bounce land, just a natural land drop will do it. So yes, I could Assassin's Trophy the castle here. Or the amulet, but I think I don't do that. Because if I Assassin's Trophy the castle and he has a bounce land anyways, then it didn't do anything, whereas we can still use that to maybe get rid of one Field of the Dead. Well, then he has one naturally. But no Titan mana yet, so... Okay, goes for a Summoner's Pact here. So he can't Titan us here if I don't see anything wrong. So I just use the Ice-Fang now. Maybe draw into a Pact of Negation. Yeah, well, can't cast it anyway, so doesn't matter. Alright, he can cast it actually, because yeah, castle only requires 4. Yeah, I'm stupid. Yeah, well, drops a Titan, so could have used Assassin's Trophy after all to prevent that. So, well, now I go ahead and path it here, so that we don't do it after Field of the Dead is online. I mean, he has only 2 cards in hand, so he has to pay 4 next turn. That should give us at least another turn. Unless he has already another Titan and just goes for bounce land or something. So this takes some time. No. Okay, he searches out Bounce Land Tolaria West to grab another Pact and still gets a few zombies here. So yeah, he has a Summoner's Pact in hand now with a floated mana. And 2 unknowns that he had before that. What can we do against that? Not a lot. He has to tap down 4 next turn. Then he might still have enough for the castle. So I use the Uro now. Trying to find maybe a counterspell against the Pact. But yeah, we don't find one. It could have been only Dovin's Veto, really. So, well. I think now I use the Assassin's Trophy on the castle, but could have used that the turn before then anyways. Okay, first things first, he has to tap down 4. Yep. Now I use it on the castle, I think, because then he only has 4 mana and he needs exactly another bounce land to play out the Titan. Which is a risk I think we have to take because we can't play anything else here anyways, so try to prevent the Titan one turn, block one of the zombies. He still doesn't get more zombies here because he only has 6 right now on Field of the Dead. So we can delay the Titan by 1 turn and maybe find a Cryptic, or maybe even a Mana Leak would be fine. And we can still maybe win this with the Uro in the graveyard. Him drawing a little bit of air or just making 1 zombie per turn or something. But here now he has dropped a forest into play, so he can play the Titan out anyways, but decides to play a Tribe Elder here. And he had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, he only had 5, right? Yeah. Okay, so we have bought the 1 turn. Take 2, trade the Ice-Fang here. Tribe Elder can upgrade to a zombie or to 2 zombies. Well, what do we draw? A Fatal Push. Oh, that doesn't kill a Titan. So only thing to do is drop the Uro. We need green, green, blue, blue, so I can only leave this basic swamp open. And put the fetch land into play. And we draw exactly Dovin's Veto, which would have stopped the damn Summoner's Pact if I would have blue-white still open. The swamp doesn't help, I couldn't tap any differently here, because we needed blue, blue, green, green, and without the Uro we would have not drawn the Dovin's Veto. Damn Fatal Push blocking us here. If they would have just switched around the positions, it would have been better. So the damn Titan hits unfortunately again. This is one of the rare situations where Dovin's Veto is actually good in this matchup, but we fail to find the window for it. Here comes the Titan yet again. I'm angry at this damn Veto, but well, it's actually our mana base with the damn basic swamp. Maybe I should put that out of the deck, because with Astrolabe, Abundant Growth, and all the shock lands, we should have enough black sources on average. And I only run 1 Fatal Push and 1... It's rarely a situation, I think, where you want the basic swamp, because also only 1 Fatal Push, so... I don't know. Maybe something to think about. So I think here he goes for yet another Tolaria West, for more Titans. Sure, next time we can counter it, but now he gets a lot of zombies again, and well, that will hurt. That will hurt, guys. The only good thing is here that he doesn't have yet a Dryad for a Valakut. So we can still stall some turns with Cryptic, maybe, even if he finds more Titans. Cryptic Sanctuary is still real. So yeah, here he goes again with the Tolaria West bounce. Using the mana immediately to transmute it for a pact. Finds another Summoner's Pact. And then he immediately uses it, and I was thinking, okay, you can't drop a Titan here, right? You have no additional land drop, and only 4 mana, but Now he searches out a Dryad, which is surprising. Because why do you need it here? There's no Valakut yet. But okay. Now we can make use of the Fatal Push. Just fetch here and push the Dryad away to prevent top deck Valakuts in case we do find the Cryptic. We have 2 looks with the Uro, so yeah, fetch out a land. I think I put more white sources into play in case I find Supreme Verdict and still want to hold up Dovin's Veto against another pact or something. But 3 pacts are already out of the deck, so I think there's also no more Tolaria West in the deck. And we find another Uro, which doesn't help, so I attack here desperately to try and find another good card that could help us here, like the Supreme Verdict or Cryptic. Those are the hits, and yes, we find the Cryptic. So we gain yet another turn. And if we find a fetch land in the next draw, or with the Uro Cycle, no, it has to be the next draw actually, then we can still go with a Cryptic loop here. If not, we have to use Snap Cryptic and try to survive another turn. So sure, the Uro dies. Whatever, he is at least in top deck mode by now. And we can buy us another turn. So if I would have not fetched out the 3rd white source, I could have left that open maybe for a Mystic Sanctuary. Okay, here he has to tap down 8 mana. Which he has, of course. So we couldn't bounce anything to make him lose the game here. Yeah, 5 mana still open. 1 card drawn. It's very likely that he draws also more lands because they run 28 or something. So yeah, tap draw. Hold up Dovin's Veto, finally. And we find a fetch land. So, Mystic Sanctuary lock going on. Looking hot right now. Hope he doesn't have Bojuka Bok here for his top deck. That would be rude. But he just puts some counter onto Blast Zone to prevent an Uro. Fine. And has drawn a Cavern. And he puts it on Giant, which I think is not correct. I don't know exactly, but I think that a Dryad with Valakut here is more dangerous. But he has 2 Titans still in the deck, so maybe it's correct here. I don't know. No Titan player. We are going to put the Cryptic back on top, so I know what we are going to do. Play out the other Uro and draw into it, and try to stall. Have to find another land drop to use Cryptic with a draw engine, because else we can't hold up this loop. Because we tap bounce now, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana into play. Then we put back the Cryptic on top. This is only 7 mana, so... And we have nothing to draw into it unless we draw an Astrolabe or something here. But he also has the Ghost Quarter now, drawn for his turn, so I can't bounce the Sanctuary. But there's some justice in the world, so instead we draw into Supreme Verdict and kill his entire damn board here. Lucky to draw one of our 2-offs here in 56 cards, but it was also lucky for him to draw the single Ghost Quarter in 34 cards, so I think luck evened out here. Sure, he has 1 Blast Zone against the Uro. But if you find now a Field of Ruin to force his Ghost Quarter, I think then we can go back to the loop. If we find another fetch land, that is, so... Okay, finds an Tribe Elder, which creates 4 power. But we still have Ice-Fang and Akaya's Guile to stall. So we try and cycle for maybe a Planeswalker now, that would be good. Okay, find another Mystic Sanctuary with a fetch land. Find the Sanctuary naturally afterwards. So now the question is, do we go for Supreme Verdict or for Cryptic? And I go for Supreme Verdict, I think. Because we can remove the next two zombies and this forces him to create even more. When we play out the Uro anyways, sure he kills it, but we don't need the other cards really right now. So with the Supreme Verdict in hand, we have some insurance to get more turns. We also have Snap Supreme Verdict to buy more time. He can always use Ghost Quarter on one of his own lands and just rebuild zombies this way, I think. So I was also hoping now that our Cryptic is out of the graveyard, he maybe goes for such a line, so that the next Cryptic we find rebuilds the lock. Still 2 in the deck. But he sacks the Tribe Elder and does not find a basic, so he can't go for this Ghost Quarter line anyways. But he finds a natural giant Primeval Titan. Not that we could have countered it, but here it is. And I think now I could have used the Kaya's Guile and make him sack it here, but since he will find some lands anyways, I was thinking that I want to kill him with the Supreme Verdict or alongside that, but what he has searched out now is this land that gives the Titan haste. I was not thinking about that. I mean, we are still at 27, so it's unlikely that we die here, but I still give him more value with the Titan trigger. Searching out more land drops so that he draws into more gas in the future turns. And well, with the Valakut now in play, the issue here is that, yeah, if he finds a Dryad, he can kill us with that. With the Valakut triggers, he can also prevent Planeswalkers, and he just fetches out, I think, another Simic Growth Chamber to always put a land into his hand, because, yeah, he always has a bounce land, right? So if he puts it into play, he returns another bounce land, and there's a little loop going on here for infinite zombies, kind of. And we can only Supreme Verdict so often. Fetches out Bojuka Bog alongside the way, but that is fine. So sure, we can Supreme Verdict away now the zombie army, but I still gave him some additional value here. Now, the Kaya's Guile won't do anything anymore anyways, because he can, yeah, always create zombies first in his turn, right? Because he always has this bounce land in hand. And this way it's also very unlikely to get a Dryad with it, so I should have definitely make him sack the Titan in response to the first ETB. But I did not thought about the haste land, and this is the price I pay now. So, learned something new for the next time I play this match, hopefully, and this situation arises again. But okay, at least we try trade the Ice-Fang with the Primeval Titan, so only one more Titan in his deck, and 3 Dryads, and else he has to kill us with the zombies. Dovin's Veto is still looking like garbage in our hand. But, well, at least we have a turn here to Supreme Verdict him and drop the hero. And he doesn't have zombies here, so we have at least a shot now. If I can find more removal or more Snapcaster Mages to stall a few turns till Teferi hits the ultimate, then it looks good again. But that is a long way. But it is a way at least, so not dead yet. Not dead yet. Still can find a Field of Ruin to force his Ghost Quarter to maybe find a Cryptic again. This is a fine target for the Dovin's Veto finally after 6 turns or something. So you only can play a bounce land and create 2 zombies. But of course he can also give the zombies haste with his red land over there and directly attacks the Teferi down to 3. Fortunately. But he kind of forgets it, like, yeah. Maybe, or tapped too fast, because he was then tapping the red mana. So this was a mistake on his part, and then we find Jace. So I could actually brainstorm here, but I was thinking, okay, you can bounce a zombie, we have Gaia Guile for another zombie, we can create a blocker for the zombie that gets haste. So it should be fine to, yeah, bounce here one turn. Find more lands, cycle, try to hit the next Cryptic or something, a Field of Ruin to deal with the Ghost Quarter. Or with the Valakut. But I just find more land drops, more cycles. What we also still have is of course Yorion, and now I have some good targets for him. So we also still have the big bird available to us. It's a good blocker against the zombies. So here comes the bounce land loop again. Since he placed the land first, means no Dryad in hand right now. Creating 3 zombies. Here I make yet another mistake. I should have used Kaya's Guile to get rid of the first zombie that can attack. Definitely not using this damn Kaya's Guile very well. And then don't even play it in response to the Tribe Elder, and now he can only... yeah, whatever, like... This was yet another turn where I failed to play this damn Guile to cash it in for some value. And he attacks both on Jace. Yeah, now I use the Guile a little bit too late, I think. Should have used it in response to the first trigger. Can shame play it here, showing the mistake. Yeah, did not want to admit the shame. But I do it here on camera. Well, at least only Jace dies, Teferi sticks around at 6. So I think here we just plus, go for Snap Supreme Verdict to keep him around this next turn cycle. Because we found Archmage Charm to steal one of his next zombies away. Alright, so now the Tribe Elder can't find a land, so no zombies here or anything. Well, what is his next draw? An Ancient Stirrings, so finally a target for the Force. Alright, get rid of that. Then he plays his bounce lands, creates 2 zombies again. Teferi's sitting at 7. Thanks to him missing this one attack. Then he gives one of the zombies haste. And here I make yet another mistake. I should wait till he attacks with the zombie with haste. Take the zombie that doesn't have haste and block it, simply clearing out the board again. Instead, I take his zombie and he doesn't attack, of course. And next turn he has 2 attackers this way. Whereas if I block here, he only has 1 attacker. Which makes it easier for Kaya's Guile to be online again. I mean, we can still use Kaya's Guile, but I'm not so sure if I use it correctly anymore. Like, it's sitting here where it could have been used way earlier for some good value. On the bright side, we only have to survive 1 more turn. Try to find something to keep this Teferi alive, whatever it is. And we still have the big bird here, which only costs a virtual 6 now, so This is a second blocker. The Spirit from Chaos Guile can be a third blocker. The only thing we really have to fear now is a Dryad from the top, because then he can play his bounce land, not only create tokens, but also gets a Valakut trigger. Since he has a second land drop with the Dryad, he can do it again, and then Teferi is down at 2, and he has a lot more zombies that we probably can't overcome. On the bright side though, if we look at the clock, even if he does find the Dryad, he is still 15 minutes down in this match. So if we don't die immediately in the second one, and maybe it gets drawn out again, it's very likely that he will time out from this match. So that is at least something to keep in mind. Here we find a Snapcaster Mage, but there is no Cryptic in the graveyard. Place the bounce lands first. I do not use Chaos Guile here. For whatever reason again. Too stupid to play this card. Maybe I should throw it out of the deck. Worst Guile in history, where it could have been fairly okay. Because now the sacrifice effect doesn't do anything. Yeah, he just returns the Gross Chamber. Yeah, well, at least we have still Ice-Fang and Snap to block, but he does not attack and doesn't do anything, which is weird. So, well, failed to use the Chaos Guile, but still win because we now have the emblem, and at this point just get finally rid of his lands alongside a Brainstorm or whatever. If we didn't draw the Jace, we still have Omen of the Seas and Ice-Fang to get at least rid of the Field of the Deads. Putting away the Chaos Guile now because I'm too stupid to use it. It's funny because it's sad. But oh well, all his win conditions are exiled now. So there is no way for him winning here. We simply wait till he either milled himself out or whatever. It's pretty hard for us to mill out because we can loop the second hero to his own ability, tuck himself, or just Cryptic bounce the Sanctuary. We have 2 Cryptics, so even if he uses the Ghost Quarter at some point, if we not exile it before, yeah, we can always put a card back on top, so it's very hard for us to mill out unless he has an Archmage Charm to let us draw 2, like in the mirror. Well, he has drawn another land. He still has a bounce land in hand, I think. Finds a Dryad now, but with no Valakut on the battlefield, the Dryad doesn't matter anymore. Could have a Valakut here, but still, don't think it matters. Just draw 2 and respawns and exile the damn thing. Place an Explorer, don't want to give him more cards, so yeah, counter that, it's pretty much game over here. And he concedes, then we put in the Aether Gusts and Ashioks and put out the Chaos Guile. Put out Path to Exile and I think the Fatal Push. DK can at least deal with an Amulet, and Assassin's Trophy can deal with everything. Dovin's Veto is only good against the Pacts, really, and therefore we also don't need that much forces. Sure, in a top deck war you can answer the steerings, but yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, there are also the Disdainful Strokes, let's not forget them this time. I think last time against one of these decks I forgot them. Can still cut an Uro here, I think. Don't need them in the early game. They have Bojuka Bog that they usually fetch out during one of the earlier Primeval Titans. Then I decided to put the Path back in to deal with, yeah, maybe one of the earlier Titans and the Dryad, whereas DK might run into Whale of Summer, and using DK on the Amulet since they run the green castle, is not always that helpful. Here we have a fine hand, at least with an Aether Gust, and at the Teferi that can prevent Whale of Summer from his side. So if we find a third land drop in the top 3 cards, I think we are fine. Field of Ruin has also some value in getting rid of a bounce land in response to an amulet trigger, so yeah, okay, find a Field of Ruin. This will be a slower start, but with Aether Gust in hand and Snapcaster Mage, a 4th land drop means that we can stall Titan for some turns, and with the Field of Ruin we can force him to shuffle it away. So he goes for a castle next, and a Tribe Elder, so we could have a Titan next turn if he has a bounce land. So we have to hold up Aether Gust here. But again, he has only 7 minutes on the clock, and he has to win 2 games with that. So yeah, the longer we stall, the likelier it is to win. Doesn't have a bounce land here, so can't play the Titan yet. So we just play the other Field of Ruin, I think. Yep. Well, if he doesn't have a land drop now, we can use Field of Ruin. Could also use Field of Ruin here to actually kill the castle, but then we still run into him having a top deck bounce land like he did. So if we use the Field of Ruin here, you get God, because then you tap down and can't hold up the Aether Gust. And here he just floats the mana and then has the Titan anyways, so with the Field of Ruin line would have definitely lost us the game. Now we can Aether Gust the Titan and force shuffle away his, the Titan with the Field of Ruin. Because you have to shuffle with it, unless MTGO has a bug and he top decks the Titan anyways. Still tops it, of course, forces us to use the field at least. Here we go. And the path to Exile. Well, can at least path the Ice-Fang if we don't find a land drop in one of the next turns, and we can use Abundant Growth here to fix our mana still. So, yeah, not the best draw, but still a draw that is useful. Okay. Now we hope that he doesn't have Bounce Land Titan in hand. Just has another amulet. Now we still hope that he doesn't have Bounce Land Titan in hand. Okay, looks good. Land drop, please. Nope. No land drop. Then we have to hold out a turn here, or gamble for it with an Abundant Growth. In this case, we put it on the Field of Ruin to have more mana available, and luckily we find an Aether Gust. Can pitch one of the Time Ravelers. So hopefully we dodge a Titan here, slam Ice-Fang, and can ramp with it with Path to Exile. Comes the Bounce Land, generating 4 mana. And here comes the Transmute. But there is still 1 mana missing for the Titan, I think. And we have a Field of Ruin, so if he doesn't get a second green source, he can't use the Summoner's Pact. Okay, goes for the Pact anyways, and Pacts. I let it resolve, because we have the Aether Gust to prevent a Titan or something. But does he have the mana here? Did he miscount? I mean, whatever he does here, I think he's dead. Even if he plays a Dryad to get this bounce trigger again. We have the Aether Gust, so... yeah, well, I mean, could just F6 because he can't pay the Pact anymore, but I think I didn't saw it immediately, and here he just concedes because he sees it. So, whatever. Would have drawn a land, so 4-0 right now. Let's go into the final match. Let's see if I can make the trophy this time around. Only dropped one single game against a young Pyromancer. Let's jump ahead. This might take some while to find an opponent. Alright, we hold a hand with 5 lands, which is actually a weak keep, but I think also after 2.5 hours I was getting tired, definitely. Because I usually play also in the evening, and then you have your workday and sports and everything in. The fatigue you staples up, so, well. And a DK here, playing against Blood Crypt deck, so it could be Junt, so DK would have text against the Red and 6, definitely useful. Said he plays a castle, so it is a black-red deck all in all. Plays a Croxa, so probably with Season Pyro and other Madu tokens, whatever, black-red tokens, maybe Dark Confident or something. Drop a land here. Should probably not have dropped the Sanctuary, because at least it can put gas on top of our deck again. And if you play Season Pyro, you probably want the Supreme Verdict twice, especially against the Thoughtseize, so I think pitching the Temple Garden should be better. I don't know. Then again, you need double white for the Supreme Verdict anyways, and we don't have that yet, so... unsure. At least we draw gas now, so the opener was not the deciding factor after all. And here comes the Thoughtseize. Can counter it here to protect the rest of our hand, because I think that Supreme Verdict is pretty important here against Season Pyro. So we counter it, keep it in the graveyard for maybe a Sanctuary if we draw a fetch land now, to keep the cards coming. He misses a land drop. Well, now we find the second white source. Should have fetched the basic planes there, but I couldn't because I played the Archmage Charm, yeah, that was the reason. Alright, here comes a Bloodstained Mire for Sacred Foundry, so it is Madu. And he drops a Liliana of the Veil. Which I can't counter now, but I couldn't have countered it if he wanted anyways. Now I dropped the second white source. Then he drops a Lingering Souls, so we can't Supreme Verdict now. DK away the Liliana. But, yeah, well, she has done her value. She has dumped Lingering Souls in the graveyard and made us discard a card. Find a fetch land there, but we don't have double white for Supreme Verdict right now, and there's no other fetchable white source with the Misty Rainforest right now in the deck. And here comes the Season Pyro. Yikes. Putting more cards in the bin. We don't have Graveyard Hate in game 1. No Cling to Dusts or anything. I mean, yeah, we have one Kaya's Guile, but... well, maybe if we draw into Kaya's Guile here, with the Ice-Fang and exile his graveyard, and maybe get Supreme Verdict down. Could be okay. Sure, he gets some elemental tokens, but well. Now we put the Archmage Charm on top, cycle into it and draw 2, because that's the best we can do here in the end step. I guess an Uro would also be fine, then it's Uro against an army of tokens and Croxer. Let's see what we draw into. A Hero of Dominaria and a Flooded Strand and the second Supreme Verdict. So now we have the white sources, but instead I go for the hero first. Wait and see what he does. Maybe he puts some Lingering Souls into play and we get more value out of it, right? So with 2 Supreme Verdicts he also needs 2 more Sword Seizes to get rid of them. So I think playing the hero here had some upside, forcing him to play out more threats. Of course he can just ship everything into Teferi and bolt it, but then at least it gained some life, stalled a turn and still netted card advantage. So the thing that we have drawn 2 Supreme Verdicts really holds us into the game against these Lingering Souls, because this is the only real effective answer we have right now. And he has a Dreadbore, unfortunately. Didn't see that card in a long time. I can still flashback Lingering Souls if he wants. Can't play the Croxer this turn. Of course, he also has the castle to draw more cards later on, so Supreme Verdict alone won't win us the game here. We need Supreme Verdict into Jace or something. Plays or fetches a land and plays Kaya's Guile, exiling our graveyard and making us sack the Ice-Fang. Sacking the Ice-Fang is okay, just take 1 few points of additional damage here, but getting rid of our graveyard is bad for us, because that will slow down Uros. Well, I fetch nonetheless. Get the stuff out of the deck. More colors into play. Go to 8. Then we have the Supreme Verdict. I think I still should have fetched out the second white source here. Yet again another mistake. So this was definitely a mistake, because probably have the Supreme Verdict here. Instead I brainstorm now. That was a mistake there, should have fetched out the basic planes definitely, and it's just Supreme Verdict. Well, now we put a Supreme Verdict at least on top, so that he can't Thoughtseize that away. We don't have enough mana for Teferi uptick and instant speed Supreme Verdict, so I also tapped down the snow-covered island, which was a mistake here, because in case we draw Astrolabe we can't play it out. Should have not tapped down the breeding pool for abundant growth, nor the snow-covered island for Astrolabe, so I'm making a lot of mistakes in this matchup. Feels like I throw this away with a chance that we were given here. So now there comes the Croxer. Then I guess we pitch either Uro or Astrolabe. Well, Uro can get us 3 life, so I think pitching Astrolabe over it is correct. But then again, Astrolabe can help us with the big bird later on. So, well, since we Supreme Verdict anyways now... yeah, right, never mind, I need the Astrolabe to have double white. So we can't pitch it. That's also reason to just pitch the Teferi probably that is on top of our deck, that I could have drawn if I just played out the damn Astrolabe. But yeah, if I would have just Supreme Verdicted last turn and keep the both Jaces in the hand, then we could still now Supreme Verdict away the Croxar and the Stoneforge and maybe go with the Uro or something, but then with the Brainstorm we did find all this gas, so maybe it was not that bad in hindsight. But I should have fetched out the second white source definitely earlier, because we don't need a second black, and yeah, play out the Astrolabe last turn. Well, now we Supreme Verdict away, he has a better skull, but if he only spends his turn in casting the better skull, then we are fine, because we can bounce back the Germ and keep a Planeswalker on board with a Supreme Verdict in hand, also filling the grave for our Uro. So I think better skull is the least threatening play he could make here. Instead he goes for a Croxar again, I think, which is fine. Then we pitch the Time Raveler here. He flashes back Lingering Souls, I think, so we Supreme Verdict yet again. We don't lose life to the Croxar because we pitch gas. Yep, exactly. So one more time Supreme Verdict. This is the second one. Find another land. Still not enough for Jace and Supreme Verdict, unfortunately, and could not escape the Uru here, so yeah. Come on. So, okay, even though with some earlier mistakes, we are still in the game. He has one more Lingering Souls and the Better Skull, but he can't do both in one turn. And now we have an Uro in the graveyard, ready to escape, and a Jace in hand. If the Uro finds a land, we can do both in one turn. Now he found the next land drop, so he can play Lingering Souls and Better Skull out in one turn. Sure. Could still go for Uro and Jace if we find the land. And the game is up in the air, really. And we still have Yorion in the companion zone, right? So find a mana leak that doesn't do anything anymore unless he bounces his Better Skull and doesn't find another land drop. Well, we go for the Uro and try to find another land drop for the Jace. Go to 11. Back up over 10. And find another Uro. And now you can watch me fail one more time, because I put this other Uro into play. The legend rule kicks in. I put the triggers on the stack and have to choose which Uro to keep. Naturally, I click on the right one, but this is a new one that hit the battlefield, because always the new ones are there. And yeah, then of course I have to sack it because it didn't escape, and I threw away the Uro, and that is game over at this stage in the game. I will never know if we would have had a way to kill it anyways, but still, I threw away the best threat I have here. I mean, he has still the castle going for him, so he can find a Liliana or something to deal with it. So it's not guaranteed that I win here if I keep the Uro around, but I still throw it away, kind of. It goes for Season Pyro, so he redraws 2 cards, pitches another Season Pyro, so yeah. Like, I would have had now the answer for the castle too. If he could not have killed the Uro, at least we would have drawn more cards. He can still block it, of course, but then we find more removal, and I think with all this removal going around and the Uro life gain from this turn, if he doesn't have the removal, would have probably won us the game, if I might say so. But I instinctly clicked on the wrong Uro there is no other sign in seeing which is the escaped one and which is the not escaped one, so, or at least I don't know of another way. So I kind of threw it away there. He might have had more Dreadbores, I don't know. We'll probably never find out, but yeah. We put in Veil of Summer against all the discard and removal that he might have, right? You can protect your Planeswalkers from Dreadbore with Veil of Summer. Aether Gust seem also okay to prevent Young Pyromancer. You can also catch the Dreadbore with it, or a Bolt or something. Seems better than the Mana Leak, kind of. Not sure. Well, let me go into the next game. Here we start with Forest and Abundant Growth after the Misty Rainforest. We have also an Astrolabe, Snapcaster Path, Chaos Guile, 2 Hitters Graveyard, and a Jace. So feels like a good keep. Did not put the Ashioks in. I was wondering, do you want them against their graveyard because of Croxa and all of that? Maybe Chaos Guile is good enough, but finding 2 copies in 80 cards is less consistent than having more graveyard hate. Ashiok is Arcward against Season Pyro though, because it doesn't have any other board impact. It's not like we have a lot of creatures to wall him from tokens, so not sure how good he really is in the end. I try to fetch a little bit around the Blood Moon, but yeah, whatever. Get an island for Mystic Sanctuary and friends, and I draw the Sanctuary here. That is kind of the 5th grindy matchup in a row. Really taxes your mind after nearly 3 hours. This won't go that much longer, so much can be spoiled. So, well, he's also keeping up with the land drops. We find a Field of Ruin for another island. But I decide to put in Sanctuary so that we might play Jace next turn if he doesn't do anything. Brainstorm and find more land drops or something. Plays Liliana here, will uptick. So, it should path to Exile, I think. Just flash in the Snap as an Ambush Viper and attack down the lady. Pitches the red castle. Now he's tapped out, so we also play Field of Ruin and use Jace. Hope that Jace survives the turn. So, Brainstorm. Find more land drops. Don't need the Sanctuary right away. But the hero is pretty good next turn. So even if he kills the Jace, we have another Planeswalker to follow up. And he still discards down to Liliana, whereas we are drawing cards, so that seems good. If he wants to get rid of our blocker, then he has to sack Liliana too, or use yet another card. Here he has only 3 to 4 mana available, so I don't know if he can do everything in one turn. Let's see, maybe a Season Pyro to put pressure onto the battlefield. No. First an uptick, we pitch one of the lands, I think. Pitching the non-basic to save life. Place a 4th land drop. Place an Ashiok. Well, now he can mill the cards we have put on top. Yep. Takes away the Brainstorm value. Also mills over Supreme Verdict and a Whale of Summer, so only one more Verdict in the deck. Well, at least we have more land drops, so the Ashiok doesn't lock us out. So, put the fetch lands back, please. Can't use Field of Ruin, so we just drop the hero. Or attack first, let's see. We can also attack Ashiok. But with the hero on the battlefield, we can also get rid of it, so... And then he concedes to it, so 1-1. And we go into the final round. Now I cut a Force because that seems kind of awkward against them, trying to reduce our resources, and I put back in a Decay because it can deal smoothly with Ashiok and stuff. Aether Gust also can only really answer Pyromancer. I think I shouldn't have boarded them. Actually should put in more Graveyard Hate, like, yeah, trying to answer the Croxus and Pyromancer value with an Ashiok. Board out 1 Uro since they bring in Graveyard Hate, and then go with, yeah, just a random card. I don't know. Did not play against this deck a lot, so there's no real sideboard plan here, just some random cards out and in. Teferi is also not looking the best, but yeah, can at least give instant speed verdicts or something. Looks like a good hand here, or at least playable hand. No discard on turn 1 again. So just some land go here in the earlier stages. And there is a Stoneforge for a better skull, so he has the pressure on the battlefield now. We can't drop Teferi to bounce back the Stoneforge here. Can only fetch out a land here and put Abundant Growth on it, like maybe a basic Plains or something. If he puts the better skull into play, this makes the Ashiok kind of worse in this situation. Yeah, I put the Abundant Growth on the Breeding Pool. Keep open path to Exile mana. But if I want to path anyways with basic Plains, then I should have just fetched it out and put Abundant Growth on there, because then it also creates blue mana for an Archmage Charm or something. So he fetches a third land drop and just drops an Ashiok, not the Liliana, so we have to fetch immediately. Yeah, and now passing the Stoneforge gives him another land drop to, well, drop the Better Skull naturally. He does not use it, attack us for 1. Okay, now I bounce it back to hand. Try to keep the Teferi on the battlefield. Try to find more natural land drops that are not fetch lands. Oh, Abundant Growth can also help. So we have at least the mana to bounce back the Ashiok with a Cryptic or something. We can get there. So yeah, he had the 5th land drop in case I would have used Path to Exile, so I'm glad I did not use that. Here comes the Stoneforge for a sword, probably. No other target than a Better Skull in the deck. Well, can at least put Abundant Growth on something. Then what am I doing here? I can't remember exactly. I think here I should use Abundant Growth, and here Ashiok would go still to 4, so it would survive. And yeah, I mean, if we get to the hero, we can get out of this lock, kind of. So we are still not dead here. If he drops the Better Skull, sure, he has it. We have still path to deal with Germ one more time. Then there is a Hero of Dominaria in play. We still have 2 Snapcaster Mages. He can only activate his Ashiok on sorcery speed, so still have a chance in this game. Then he plays Lingering Souls though, so Ashiok is not looking good right now. It's exactly the 5 mana without our path to flash them back in 1 turn. Now his Ashiok is walled off, we find another one. So yeah, we can play a Teferi now, let him tank for damage and path probably the Stoneforge Mystic. When it attacks, find another path, so path the tokens is the plan now. And here he swings everything in, so yeah, we do exactly what I mentioned. Path the Stoneforge. Let the Teferi go to 1. Because pathing another token would put him at 2 and he still dies to both K-Command and everything else, so no reason to path to exile him here. And then he plays a Boil. And here our dreams are getting crushed because while I only lose 2 lands, I put the Abundant Growth on a duel instead of an earlier Plains that I mentioned, right? I could have fetched out Plains instead of Hallowed Fountain and put Abundant Growth on there, and then we would have still now 3 blue mana. And could go probably for, yeah, exactly this Cryptic. But yeah, instead now we only have 2 blue sources. The Teferi will die, and from there the game will be lost. I can show it here. Now try to do some desperation and get rid of some spirits here so that the Teferi might survive, but I don't have enough mana. And yeah, the Teferi dies. He has yet another Boil, unfortunately, so he takes away this next land drop. I try to play out the Snapcaster Mage as an ambush Viper to get rid of the Ashiok to get kind of back in the game. Because we are still not dead, right? We are at 18. But since he never down-ticked it, I can't kill it here in exactly this turn, so it stays at 1. Therefore, I can't use Field of Ruin, and with his castle here pumping all his tokens, he will quickly finish us. He also has the Better Skull, of course, and yeah, goes from there. Swords is away the path anyways, but that's it. So yeah, I did not play around Boil there in the last game where I could have fetched out the basic planes. Kind of don't know if I would have won the first game if I clicked on the correct Uro, which is kind of frustrating in the end because yeah, this way I lose the trophy yet again. Can't get it even after such a great start. I just can't get it, but well, can't complain. Still 4-1. Still performing well with this deck, all in all. Even though I make some mistakes, the deck is good enough to pull me through. And well, I really liked the black cards in this league. Especially Abrupt Decay was really good right now, so yeah. Let's see us back for the next league, where I yet again run against the wall and see how it will go then. So, thanks for watching, have a great day, and till next time, bye bye.